Personalization at scale, tools and techniques. Personalization at scale starts with buyer expectations. B2B buyers now expect consumer-grade experiences, and that expectation shows up immediately in Outbound. When 77% of buyers say they won't purchase without personalized content, and only 25% feel vendors deliver it, generic sequences aren't just ineffective, they're a competitive disadvantage. Personalization at scale is how modern SDR teams keep volume high without sounding mass-produced. This matters because Outbound is no longer email only. Prospects experience your brand across cold email, cold calls, LinkedIn touches, your website, and even retargeting, so inconsistent messaging reads as sloppy. With digital and self-serve channels projected to drive 56% of US B2B revenue, your personalization system has to operate wherever the buyer chooses to engage. At SalesHive, we treat personalization as a pipeline lever, not a creative writing exercise. The goal is simple: more positive replies, more meetings, and better conversion from meeting to opportunity, without requiring heroic manual research from every rep. When the system is right, you can scale an outsourced sales team or an internal SDR org with the same playbook and predictable outcomes. Define real personalization, not mail merge. Most teams confuse mail merge with personalization. First 99, company, maybe an industry token, and a vague compliment. Buyers see through that instantly because it doesn't explain why you're reaching out now, why it's relevant to their role, or what changes if they ignore you. Real personalization connects a specific context to a specific hypothesis about pain, priority, or timing. A practical definition we use is, your opener should answer at least 2 of why you, why now, and why care. Why now is often the fastest win. Funding, hiring, leadership changes, product launches, tech migrations, or category shifts, because it gives your outreach a legitimate reason to exist today. Done well, personalization can lift engagement by about 20%, which typically translates into better reply and meeting rates across your outbound sales agency motions. The sweet spot is programmatic personalization, strong templates paired with 1 or 2 contextual lines that feel researched. That balance keeps throughput high for a cold email agency or SDR agency while still sounding human. It's also how cold calling services stay relevant, because the same why now used in an email becomes the first 10 seconds of a call. Build the foundation: ICP, segmentation, and tiering. Personalization doesn't scale if your targeting is fuzzy. Start by locking in an ICP that sales, marketing, and RevOps agree on. Then segment by firmographics, industry, size, geography, technographics, systems in place, and buying committee roles. The more consistent your segmentation, the easier it is to build reusable messaging blocks that stay accurate at high volume. Next, tier your accounts so effort matches potential value. This is how you avoid a common failure pattern: over-personalizing low-value leads and under-personalizing the accounts that could actually change your quarter. A cold calling agency or B2B sales agency can only be personalized if your tiers define what depth of research is expected before a rep ever hits send or dials. Use a simple framework and bake it into your CRM fields so it's operational, not theoretical. The stack that makes personalization scalable. Tools don't replace strategy, but the right stack makes 80% template, 20% personalization realistic. At minimum, you need a CRM as the source of truth, plus a sales engagement layer where sequences, calling tasks, and reporting live. From there, add enrichment and trigger data so your personalization isn't stuck at name and company tokens. AI is the multiplier when it's wired to clean data and tight segmentation. An AI personalization engine can turn public signals, website copy, LinkedIn activity, hiring patterns, news, and tech stack clues into short, relevant intro lines without slowing reps down. For example, our eMod customization engine is designed to transform a base template into outreach that can perform up to 3 times better than templated emails when the underlying segmentation and prompts are dialed in. Don't overlook calling infrastructure. A dialer and conversation intelligence layer helps reps see context before they call, follow persona-specific talk tracks, and capture outcomes that feed back into better targeting. That's how B2B cold calling services stay coherent with your email and LinkedIn messaging. One set of signals, one story, delivered across channels. Personalization only scales when you treat it like a system. Define segments, choose a few repeatable levers, and let data and automation produce consistent relevance on every touch. The 80-20 workflow for email, calls, and LinkedIn. The fastest path to personalization at scale is a repeatable workflow that happens before enrollment, not during panic mode follow-up. We recommend building a segment-specific template that does the heavy lifting, your positioning, proof, and CTA, then adding a small amount of context that proves relevance. That 20% should usually be one trigger line plus one persona-based pain hypothesis. Short enough to stay believable, specific enough to earn attention. For cold email, that means your first lines should reflect what's true about their world right now, not what's generally true about the market. For LinkedIn, the same context becomes a lighter version of the opener and a lower friction CTA, so the prospect feels continuity rather than channel whiplash. For calls, the trigger becomes the first sentence, and the persona hypothesis becomes the first question, which is how cold callers sound prepared instead of scripted. This is also where the business case becomes obvious. Personalization typically drives a 10 to 15% revenue lift on average, with top performers reaching up to 25%. If you're evaluating sales outsourcing or pay-per-appointment lead generation, this workflow is what separates activity from predictable meetings, because it scales relevance, not just volume. Fix the process breaks that kill personalization. Most teams fail at personalization because of process, not effort. The first failure mode is confusing variable insertion with relevance. Dropping FEMA into a generic pitch doesn't address context, so it still reads like a blast. The fix is to standardize a small set of personalization levers per segment, trigger, persona pain, use case, and ensure every first touch uses at least one of them. The second failure mode is letting bad data drive outreach. Outdated titles, wrong industries, and misclassified tech stacks create cringeworthy messages that reduce trust and suppress reply rates. Make data hygiene non-negotiable. Enrich records, scrub lists, and build an SDR feedback loop so corrections flow back into the CRM instead of living in private notes. The third failure mode is scaling before you have a proven playbook. If you're sending thousands of personalized touches without validating which angles actually work, you're scaling noise and burning accounts. Start with small cohorts, validate a few segments, then scale into higher volume through your sales development agency workflow or an outsourced B2B sales motion once you can defend the numbers. Measure, test, and optimize for meetings, not clever openers. A lot of teams measure personalization by word count or how impressed the team was in Slack. That's the wrong scoreboard. Track open rate, reply rate, positive reply rate, and meetings per 100 contacts. Then compare those outcomes by segment, persona, and account tier so you know where personalization is paying off. High-performing teams go beyond simple A/B tests. Use multivariate testing across subject lines, openers, CTAs, and send times so you can identify the winning combinations faster and roll them into global templates. When you run this properly, personalization becomes a performance discipline. Each month you ship a few new variants, learn, and compound the gains across your cold email agency and cold calling team workflows. Don't ignore the rest of the buyer journey either. When B2B brands personalize their web experiences, they've reported conversion rate lifts around 80%, which reinforces a simple truth. Email personalization alone can't carry the full funnel. The best results come when your outbound message, landing experience, and follow-up content all reflect the same segment logic and the same why now story. Next steps as digital buying accelerates. If you want personalization at scale to be real in the next 30 days, start with fundamentals. Clarify ICP, lock segmentation, tier accounts, and define what good personalization looks like for each tier. Then, audit your top sequences and rewrite the first two touches so they include one trigger-based line and one persona hypothesis line that can be generated consistently. This is the fastest way to improve relevance without slowing down daily activity. From there, operationalize. Standardize prompts for AI-assisted research, add guardrails, length, tone, allowed sources, and require reps to validate outputs before sending. Align your cold call services scripts and LinkedIn messaging to the same levers so the buyer gets one coherent experience across channels. This is also where a B2B list building services motion can support scale, because personalization is only as good as the inputs you feed it. Finally, decide whether you'll build or partner. Many teams choose to combine internal ownership with external execution, working with an SDR agency, outbound sales agency, or cold calling companies that can run the system reliably while your team focuses on closing. Either way, the win condition is the same: a repeatable personalization system that increases meetings, improves pipeline quality, and stays consistent as your volume grows.